And welcome to our first AF one-on-one of the 2020-2025 season. Lots of 20s in there, Coach. I'm Adam Pelletier. Joining me today, Coach Gary Thomas of the Southwest Kansas Storm. Coach, welcome back to Arena Football. How are you feeling going into year two?
I feel good. It's coming up, faster than it feels like it should. I feel like we just finished, but it's I think we're ready. As ready as we can be at this point. I think.
I mean, and we talk about that it does feel like it's about to start. I mean, we're 2 months away from the season. I mean, we're about a month and change away from training camp opening.
Yep.
And it just feels like it snuck up on us. It feels like just yesterday there was AFU in Chicago, there was meetings in September, and now we're here getting ready to actually play football and get out of the sillier season, if we will, and get to the business of playing football. So, Coach, you're in your second year coaching arena football. What was the biggest thing that you learned last year, making the transition from the outdoor game to the arena 50-yard game?
Kind of everything that I had planned. Some of it was finding out that I was spot on, and some of it was finding out we were killing a fly with a sledgehammer. So we overdid some things. Luckily last year camp was actually really long, just kind of how everything played out. But looking back on the whole product, we wasted a lot of time on concepts, at least offensively at the beginning, that we really didn't need and didn't use towards the end. So I think the biggest thing I took away was, what I really need versus what I really don't. And then being able to more efficiently focus on, the 90% of what we were doing at the end and get better at those things early.
Yeah, and definitely one of those things was the quarterback position. I mean, I know you went in last year unsure of what was going to happen. You had two guys, and then you found your guy, Matt Struck. I mean, what was the key to his development as you went through the year? Just really what helped him take those steps? Because at the start of the year, it wasn't clear he was going to be the guy. And then by the end, we were talking about him as one of the best quarterbacks, one of the best emerging quarterbacks in the arena game.
The evolution of it was, not necessarily what people would think. It wasn't like a light came on or anything. Matt was competitive from day one, but being that he was, rookie for this level, there were some things that took time, as far as how quickly the ball needs to come out, and some of the wasted mechanics of, some things you can get away with in the outdoor game that you can't get away with in the indoor game. And those are things that we'll, address early on, this year as well. Likes to carry the ball a little bit lower, for my liking, which makes it come out high sometimes and which makes it come out late sometimes. And, but those are things that we can fix. But I think it was just the newness of it for him. Caden had an obvious advantage, because he had played for me before, and just, being from here and playing in, a familiar system for me in college, and also having indoor experience, he had a distinct advantage. And once Matt kind of got acclimated, he kind of closed that gap, and, some things, progressed that kind of made Matt, rise to the top. And then it was, a matter of, we felt like we could play with both of them. Nothing ever happened where it was like, oh yeah, this is where we need to go with it. It was more, we're moving the ball, we're scoring points. Am I stupid to mess with that right now? And that was kind of more how it progressed than anything else. When we went down to, we played well in the Wichita game. We played well here against Salina, and that was, Matt led us to kind of a fourth quarter comeback in that game. But then we went to West Texas and scored, 60 some odd points. And so then it got to the point that was where it was on me. Like, am I the dumbest guy on the planet if I start tinkering with this and messing with it. So I figured it just best to let it be at that point. And that was honestly, I wish there was more to it other than that was kind of just how it played out, you know?
No, I mean, sometimes it's just what do you need to do and what does your team need? I mean, there was a lot of questions going into last year for the Southwest Kansas team. You know, what are they doing? First time head coach, not the most experienced 50-yard game roster. There were a lot of questions, and I think y'all did a good job last year putting those questions to bed. But I think some folks are forgetting how much your team grew from the start of last year to the end of last year. And I think they're thinking that you're going to be right back to square one. You know, what have you as a coach and what has your team been doing to make sure you don't lose that momentum as a playoff team?
I don't know. I don't talk to those people. So, you know, whoever's saying that, you know, they're entitled to their opinion, but I don't know what you're basing it off of. You know, we've got a quarterback back who, you know, was highly sought after by, you know, other teams in the offseason. And I think he's really, really good. I think he embraces our style of play. You know, I went back and watched, you know, the national broadcast of the playoff game and, you know, took a little criticism, honestly, because we were doing things unconventionally, but it doesn't mean that it was wrong. It's just not what you're accustomed to seeing. But I also get the counterpoints of, you know, the quarterback's taking a lot of hits and, you know, because of our style of play and making him a ball carrier. But if you know Matt, he has no problem with that. He, you know, he likes to have the ball in his hands. He likes our style of play. And, you know, if that ends up being our demise, you know, then so be it. But, you know, having Matt back is a big piece of the puzzle. You know, having Todd back at wide receiver, who, you know, was arguably, you know, statistically one of the top 2 or 3 in the league at wide receiver. I think he'll be a better version of himself. There's chemistry there. DeQuan is back, who there wasn't an award for kick returner, but if there was a better one, I'd like to see him. I think he had, you know, 4, 5, 6 kick returns for touchdowns. Eugene's back, who's just a big physical presence, you know, just plays hard on every snap, does whatever you're asking him to do. And then we've got other pieces that we've brought in that are going to challenge those guys for jobs. You know, we got Michael Lawson back, who, you know, was a first team all AFL guy. And, you know, before he got a little banged up towards the end of the year, you know, was on pace to probably lead the league in interceptions. And, you know, Connor Davis is back and he'll be a better version of himself. He's up to about 325 now. And, you know, he's a guy that has plenty of outdoor experience and, you know, he's just looking for that last opportunity. Dylan Burkhart's back. You know, he hit a deuce, I think, in our last 4 straight, you know, football games once we made the transition to a better football. You know, so I feel good about those pieces that are coming back of last year's roster. And you know, we're one of, I think, the few teams that didn't make any major changes after the rule change last year where they got rid of Iron Man. You know, we thought it important to, you know, kind of, for lack of a better term, dance with the one that brought you. You know, those guys made a commitment to come here and do everything we asked them to do and survived a month of camp and all that. And, you know, why should they get cut so that we can upgrade because the rules changed and it wasn't their fault. So I felt like towards the end, we probably could have got a better pass rush. We could have made some changes that maybe would have made us a better football team. You know, but I wanted to do right by the people that, you know, were here through the struggle with us. But I think now that we're able to recruit to the rules, I think we've upgraded in almost every area to make us a better football team. I think we'll be able to affect the passer in some way with pass rush. I think we'll do a better job of protecting ourselves against pass rushes. I think we'll be able to play catch better. I think our concepts will be, you know, simpler and sharper. And I just feel like we're a much better version of what we were and what we are. And that's not saying that everybody else won't be as well, but, you know, I feel like, you know, I feel like we stack up with most people, you know, at least on paper.
Yeah. And, you know, in some of those ways, you know, you skipped over a guy that you signed, Demarius Washington, whose addition, while subtracting to a rival there, you know, he leaves Salina heading into this year, and now he ends up on your roster, a veteran, experienced guy. Just talk about, you know, how's that going to help your younger players and your less experienced indoor players make that step as they get more experienced in the 50-yard game?
I think him and Detroit, I think, will be great additions because of their experience. That's the one thing that we honestly lack is experience, indoor experience, not necessarily football experience. And there are some nuances to the indoor game that don't necessarily translate. Daquan's a great example. He's a guy that just likes to go fast everywhere he goes, and the game that you can't always go fast. You run out of space, and the quarterback just physically can't get the ball from A to B as fast as you're traveling. And I think, a guy like Demarius will probably positively affect some of those guys. We had Salina's like, our twin brother in this deal. We played him in a scrimmage in the preseason. We played him twice in the regular season. We played him once in the playoffs. So we saw him 4 different times, but so we had plenty of film on him. But, where I'm going with that is, we used some opportunities of watching, guys like Demarius play and trying to teach our guys, look, he's not traveling very fast. He's setting up his next move. And it's about, pacing yourself, getting to, even, watching a guy like Darius Prince on film. He's obviously a phenomenal player, but he's not always going as fast as he can. He gets where he needs to get to, and then all of a sudden he changes gears on you. And he beats you from not necessarily A to B, but he beats you from C to D. And if the ball's on time, it makes it very, difficult to defend. So that's where I think the vets will have, the biggest impact, is just helping some of our guys. There's just not enough time to teach everybody everything. But I think from a talent standpoint, I think we're up there in the upper tier of probably what's available in this league. And, now it's just got to be, putting some structure to it and getting all the personalities in the room to, get on the same page. And, but I think we've done a good job in the recruitment process of recruiting the right personalities. And now we've just got to set some structure to it and see where it goes.
Thinking about that recruiting, we're in tryout season, rosters are kind of starting to fill out, but everybody's got those few spots that they're thinking about, who am I going to put in there? What's the biggest thing for you as you're evaluating maybe a guy you haven't heard of? Coaches go with guys that they have some familiarity with. When you're evaluating just somebody cold at a tryout or a workout, what's the biggest thing you're looking for there?
We probably pass on guys that probably could play, just because I probably over evaluate a situation, but looking for things that translate to the indoor game, looking at a pass rusher, looking at a wide receiver, looking at, stride length, stride frequency, and seeing, some guys, if you just had things on paper and you say, okay, well, he's 6'2", there's a lot of guys in this country, believe it or not, that, at least hand timed, run, 4.38, 4.39. If you took all those same people and you had them run 100-yard or 100-meter dash, some guys would run 10.6 and some guys would run, 11.4. And all those same guys, because some guys, start fast and, they get up to speed quicker than other guys. So some guys are better, deep ball guys, and some guys are quicker. So I myself, I kind of categorize our wide receivers. We have big guys that are, 6'2", 6'3", and above. We have that middle category, which is the 5'10" to 6'1" guys that are good in and out of breaks. They play like little guys, but they're not little guys. And then, I have the little guys, which are, kind of 5'9" and a half and under. You have to have one of those guys, but you can't have too many of those guys. You want some big receivers. And I think that's honestly the difference between, indoor versus arena in some ways. And just tracking tendencies, in different styles of football. I think they see a lot more zone coverage. We see a lot more man coverage. Different types of players, some of those bigger safeties, box safeties that can come defend the run, those guys don't necessarily have a place in our game. We have probably better man-to-man cover guys, on the back end. A lot of the receivers, if you've got a guy that's 6'4", and a guy that's 6'1" and they can do the same job, I mean, why would you not take the 6'4" guy? You know, this is at a certain point in time, a lot of this becomes just kind of one-on-one basketball on the back end of these defenses. So, you know, length does matter. Quickness does matter. Getting in and out of breaks and being able to win. You know, my biggest fear in the outdoor game is, what am I going to do if somebody just gives me the middle finger and wants to play bump and run man coverage and says, go ahead and beat me if you can? I mean, you can't just chuck it deep every play and hope for the best, you know, so you better have enough concepts in to get people open, because if you finally face a team that's got better players than you, you're just going to get beat, you know. So I like to make sure I have an out, but I like to make sure that I have different outs as far as abilities and skill sets within the team. And you know, I acknowledge our style of play has its pros and its cons, you know, and I fully acknowledge one of our cons is I can't get the ball out of my hands as fast as the people that are playing under center, you know, so they can take advantage of some of those looser coverages and getting the ball out now. You know, some of their stuff in the screen game, I would argue that I think the things that we can do from the shotgun offset some of those things, you know, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to, you know, prove those things over a longer season. But when I'm recruiting offensive linemen, you know, I look at some of the guys that some people are signing, and I look at them in our style of play, and I don't know that they can play here. And that's a disadvantage for me, honestly, because the pool of people that can play in their scheme is probably bigger. You know, they're creating that pocket at, you know, 3 to 4 to 5 yards when their quarterback drops back. My pocket is 6 to 10 yards sometimes. You know, it's tougher to slide protect from the gun, because if you're playing with a real running back, you know, he can't get up there, and now you're going to have a guy in your lap. You know, we can't play A gap to A gap, you know, slide protections like a lot of the under center teams do, where they're just going to clog both the A gaps with the, you know, the fullback and the center. We can't do that from the shotgun, or else we'd have the nose tackle on our tailback, or we'd have, you know, whatever. So, you know, we're in a lot of big on big protections. So we are setting our guys up at times for failure. You know, they've got to block some elite pass rushers. So we have to recruit a guy that can play on an island. You know, kind of like, you know, they say about corners, but our offensive linemen, our guards especially, they got to play on an island. They're going to be one-on-one, you know, 35 snaps a game with that defensive end and pass pro, and our quarterback's going to be back there, you know, 6 to 9 yards, which now gives them, you know, gives that D end a three-way go. You know, he can go, you know, upfield and around. He can go upfield and come back in the B gap. He can slant hard in the B gap. He can get into a bull rush. It gives the defensive ends a lot more opportunities to get to our quarterbacks. So we have to have guys that are, you know, long, athletic, you know, got enough lead in their butt to kind of sit down in case they get into a bad position, but are also wired differently mentally. And they're confident in their own abilities, that, you know, they're not going to go in the tank if they give up a sack, because they're going to give up a sack at some point in time with our style of play. But
and it might not even be a sack. It might just be somebody finally wrestled Matt down as he was trying to gain yardage. But I will say, I think one thing that I noticed last year as I watched Matt play throughout the year, Matt wants to take a hit. Like you said, he wants to take a hit. And after he takes that one good hit, he pops up and he's like, all right, game time. I'm ready to go now. So
for sure,
that definite toughness there is great to see. Coach, great talk as always. Really appreciate your time. Very excited to see what y'all are going to do in Southwest Kansas. In, you know, and particularly for you in year 2 with a great team, you know, looking to build on last year's success. Any final thoughts or any final words before we head on out of here?
No, we're as excited as you are. You know, now that we've got, you know, a consistent kind of direction, you know, rule wise, so we know what we can recruit to, you know, and hopefully not too many, you know, pivots and what have you down the stretch. You know, very, very excited to see what our staff can do, and I feel like we've recruited a roster that's, you know, makes us competitive, you know, week in and week out, and, you know, God willing, we can stay healthy and you know, and give people the best version of us, you know, every week. But we're excited. I'm as curious to see what happens as you are. There's a lot of unknowns, but there's less unknowns than there was last year. But I feel good about our roster.
Yes,
I feel
sir.
good about our mentality, the mentality of the people we're recruiting, and the way we're wired, and the physicality that we're going to bring to each game for 12 straight weeks is just kind of what we're built on. And I know that's, I've learned that the arena game is a little bit of a finesse game in some areas. There's some guys that, don't want to mix it up necessarily all the time. And we're not wired that way. We're going to put 8 people on the field that are going to bring violence every single snap. And that's just who we're going to be. And we're coming.
There we go. All right. Coach Gary Thomas and the Southwest Kansas Storm. We are 1 month out from training camp, folks, 2 months out from the start of games. We're excited for everything here at Arena Football One. And like Coach Thomas said, our new venture this year, feeling a lot more stable and consistent than anything we've been a part of previously. So we're very excited for that. We're very excited to see everything keep going. So, Coach, thank you very much for your time and can't wait to see y'all on the field.
Appreciate it a bunch. We'll see you soon.